Philosophical Instructions. An Introduction to Contemporary Islamic Philosophy by Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi. Instructor Dr. Muhammad Ali Shumali.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-Ali al-Azim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Abul Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin wa sahbihi al-muntajamin. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. This session is based on lesson 23 of the book Philosophical Instructions. The whole point in this lesson is about the fact that there is a reality outside. In other words, the point is that the reality of the external world is self-evident. The reason for having this lesson here is that after we saw that the concept of being or existence is self-evident, some people may say that yes, it's true that the concept is self-evident. We understand the concept. But at the same time, they may insist on denying the existence as a reality. They may say that just we have this concept in our mind, but nothing is there. So it's very important to discuss whether there is a reality, whether there is an external world outside us, or it's just our imaginations, just some ideas in our mind. The author says that the fact that there is an external world, there is an objective world, there are something real, something apart from us, and apart from our mind, is self-evident, and every human being who is not affected by some misunderstandings will easily understand that. But there have been some people throughout the history of philosophy who have been disagreeing with this fact, who have been denying or expressing doubt about the reality in general, or about certain realms, certain domains of reality. As far as we know, there have been very, very rare cases in which philosophers or a group of philosophers have ever denied the whole reality. Some people who have expressed doubt or a skepticism, or even have gone further to deny the reality in all circumstances. This has been very, very rare. The only case which is usually mentioned is Gorgias, who has been said that was in doubt about the world and about himself. And it's said that this person even in practice was not sure about what to do. But this is very, very rare, and indeed we don't know whether he really had doubt, because sometimes philosophically you may have doubt, but in practice you live as others. So for example, when you want to eat, you will go to the kitchen or to, for example, towards the fridge, and you take something out of the fridge or out of the kitchen and eat. So even these people who are, for example, a skeptic, if they are hungry, they will go to find something to eat. And when they take the food toward their mouth, they will open their mouth. They will not say, okay, I don't open my mouth, or I don't know whether the mouth exists or the food exists or not. So they live as other people. In any case, apart from this very rare case of denying whole truth and whole reality, there have been some people who have had doubt or who have had skepticism, or sometimes have denied certain domain of reality. And inshallah we will talk about these people one by one. So first we have a sort of universal denial of reality. The second is to hold a sort of a skepticism about anything other than myself. So some people have said, I may have doubt about everything but myself. About myself, I'm sure. I understand that I exist. I understand my feelings, my perceptions. How can I have doubt about myself? Even if I have doubt about myself, it means that I am there. Because if you are not there, how can you doubt? You all remember the famous argument of Descartes, the French philosopher. So these people have said, I cannot deny my own reality. So at least there is such a reality there. But I have doubt, or I deny, because some people deny, some people say we have doubt about anything other than myself. So for example, if I see a book in front of me, these people say I have doubt about it, or we deny it, depending on the strength of the version that they adhere to. So these people say this book is not there, or is not known to be there. This table is not proved. Everything may be just my imagination, as a dream. Everything may be just some ideas that I have created myself in my mind. But they don't deny the reality of themselves. So this is one version. And this person can be said, can be told, that if you deny the reality of everything, every human being, every living being, every non-living being, except yourself, so why do you argue with us? If you think that we are just some ideas in your mind, if you think that your counterpart in argumentation, in discussion, in debate, is nothing there, is not real, so why do you bother yourself to study philosophy, to write about philosophy, to discuss about the philosophy, and why do you discuss with us? So it shows that you yourself believe in the reality, at least in the reality of the people to whom you talk. This reminds us again the fact that many people who have been expressing doubts about the reality, in practice, they themselves were not consistent. In practice, they themselves were believing in the reality. So this is one version. The other version is more limited. So instead of denying anything other than oneself, they say we believe in human beings. We believe in men or women. I am there, you are there, my friend is there. Everyone who is called a human is there. But apart from humans, we don't have any reality. So this is more limited, because this person, instead of denying everything other than himself or herself, denies everything other than people. So it's more limited. So you see that this person admits the existence of billions of people. So this is more limited. But the question here is, what was the reason? This is the question, a big challenge for such people. And that is to say to them, what was the reason that led you to distinguish between people and other beings? If the reason for denial of, for example, this book or table or tree or flower or mountain is that you have no direct and immediate access to that reality, the same is true about other people. What is the difference between a cat sitting in front of me or, for example, a person who exists in front of me or in a very distant place on the globe? What's the difference? Although we do not deny the difference between a cat and human being, that's true, but this is not the case. I'm saying, what's the difference in this regard? If the reason for denial is that you don't have immediate access to that reality, the same is true about other human beings. So you see, this inconsistency is a big challenge. If there is any way that you can make sure that other people exist, the same can be used to prove that other beings exist. If the reason for example, admission of existence of A or B is that they have some interactions with me, when I talk to them, they talk to me, I make them, for example, happy, or they make me happy or angry, and so on and so forth. The same can be said about many, many other things. You can make a cat escape, or for example, a wolf may make you escape, so this interaction is there. It's not just an imagination. So this is a more limited version, but still it's not acceptable and it suffers from some problems. The fourth version is to deny the material beings. If you remember, we had this idea by Berkeley that everything in the world is only perception, the perceiving or the perceived. We don't have anything other than something that perceives or something which is perceived. And all these are abstract and ideal, or you may call it in a sense spiritual, or maybe more precisely immaterial, because spiritual sometimes may be understood in different ways. So according to this view, we do not believe in the external world, in the material world. We do not believe in the sky, in the heaven, in the stars, in the mountains, in the rivers, in the trees, in the jungles. We do not believe in them. Everything is mind, our minds, or mind of God, and what is there. And someone like Hegel had also this idea that there is an absolute mind, and that's the mind of God, and everything is just some ideas. Everything is just some idea in the mind of God. And the relationship between these things in the mind of God is a logical relationship, not a philosophical relationship. You know, the way that we can draw some concept from other concept, or some proposition out of other proposition in our mind, is the logical way. We know how to define things, or how to establish, how to produce syllogism, arguments, maybe deduction, maybe induction, maybe allegory, depending on the cases. So this sort of relationship which exists in logic is different from the philosophical explanation that, for example, you have a cause, then you will have an effect, you have fire, and then you have heat. This is different. Hegel had the idea that everything only occurs in the mind of God. There is no external world, and the relationship between these things are purely logical and not philosophical. So this is very close to the idea of Berkeley. But if you remember the problem that we raised before about the idea of Berkeley was that by no means we can reduce being into perception. This is a misunderstanding. It's true that whenever we want to know certain being, it must come to our mind. Or when God knows something, we talk about the knowledge of God, so that is in the mind of God, if you can call it mind. Because in Islamic philosophy, we are very hesitant to call the knowledge of God a mental knowledge and to suppose that God has a mind, because mind is usually for the concepts and the knowledge of God is different. So this is why I am very hesitant and reluctant to use mind of God. In any case, just to compromise here to be able to facilitate our discussion. So it's true that something which is known by God is something, some idea in God's mind or in his divine knowledge. But we cannot identify what is known with the knowledge of what is known. A tree which exists outside, my friend who exists and who stands before me, are different from the images that exist in my mind. Or, for example, the knowledge of God about those things. Even when you have some knowledge by presence, al-ilm al-huduri, it's true that the very object of knowledge is present for me, and this presence is called knowledge. But still I cannot say that because I know that it exists. No, it exists, therefore I know it. Although there is no image involved. It's present directly for me, but because it's present, I know it. I cannot say this presence is the same as knowledge in a very deep and profound sense. It's present, therefore I know it. So presence or existence is different from perception, perceiving or being perceived. So this is also something that is not acceptable. The other view, which is quite opposite to the one we just discussed, is to say, quite opposite, is to say that we believe in the material world, but we disbelieve in the immaterial world. This is quite opposite. Unlike people like Berkeley and Hegel, these people say that everything which is material can be accepted. This book is material. It has 3 dimensions. You can, touch it. So this is there. This table is there. You touch this person is there. But something as a spirit, something as angel, something as God, according to these people, do not exist. Because these are not material things. And these people think that existence is equal to physical mass, to physical matter. But this is not also true, because we very easily understand the reality of ourselves, and we understand that our reality is different from our body. And there are many arguments put forward here to prove the fact that our spirit is different from our body. Can you say that my spirit is, for example, tall or short? You can say your body is tall or short, but you cannot say my spirit is tall or short. Can you say my spirit is fat or thin? Can you say right side of my spirit or left side of my spirit? Can you say that when, for example, you lose part of your body, for example, if after some operation, the doctors, the surgeons take away, for example, your kidney, can you say that I have lost part of my identity? Can you say that because the time changes my body and I lose thousands and millions of cells in a time process, can you say my identity also is changing? I'm losing part of my identity and gaining some other part? No. So our spirit is different from our body. It's not a material fact, and it's not liable to material qualities. So how can I deny such a thing which is very, very clear to me? Something more obvious to me than the book which is in front of me, because it's myself. I have direct knowledge about it. I may deny anything around me, but I cannot deny myself. So this is very difficult position to take, to deny everything which is not material and to reduce everything to the matter, physical mass. And also we have arguments to prove the existence of God, and God cannot be material. So I think it's not that much difficult to refute these ideas. And as we said in the beginning, the fact that there is an objective world, there is a reality, there is an external universe, is something that nearly all human beings understand without any difficulty, except those people who have some questions in their mind which are not properly answered. Now let's see what is the secret of this nearly universal acceptance of the reality of the world. Why 99.99% of human beings admit the reality of the world? Why there is such a strong common sense that we do not have doubt about ourselves, about the people around us, about the world around us, about these cars on the streets, about these people in the offices, in the schools, in the hospitals, about the birds, about the fishes, about the oceans? Why do we not have doubt about these things? Yes, we may have sometimes doubt about a very particular being, but as a whole, we don't have doubt. We don't say that this is just dream, this is just my own imagination. Why? Some people have said that the reason for this universal, nearly universal admission is that our mind or our reason or our intellect is created in this way. It's a sort of innate knowledge that we have been given. It's part of the design of our mind. It's part of the fabric of our intellect, that we understand that there is a real world. This is something may be true, but if it is taken in its literal sense, it has some problems. So maybe the person who has developed this idea had something in his mind other than what we understand from the literal sense, maybe something referring to what we will say later. But if we take this in literal sense, it has some problem. The problem is that if you say we are created in this way and it's part of our design, the problem is that some people may say, okay, so there is no argument, there is no proof, there is no demonstration for this fact, for this idea, for this so-called knowledge. If you were created in another way, you may have had doubt about this. So those who are a skeptic may say that, okay, you are created in this way, but what sort of guarantee, what sort of sanction you can provide to show that if you were not created in another way, you could have had doubt about the world, about the reality. So some people may say this. Of course, this question, I think, is not very serious question, because then you would be able to say that currently this is the way that I can work, this is the way that I can think. And if you ask me what would be the difference if you were created in another way, is something beyond my understanding, and I cannot have any doubt about what I have been given as part of the design of my mind. The other idea that have some people put forward is that the fact that reality is self-evident is because it's one of those primary propositions. If you remember, we said that those propositions which are self-evident are divided into 6 categories, and some people, like the author himself, had doubt about some of them being self-evident. But one of them which he had no doubt about was al-qadaya al-awwaliyya, primary propositions. And we mean by primary propositions al-awwaliyat or al-qadaya al-awwaliyya those propositions which do not depend on any argument. Just the mere fact that you understand, you perceive, or you conceive the subject and the predicate would be enough to affirm the relation between these two. For example, the fact that every compound is bigger than its parts. If you have, for example, something which is built by 10 different parts, so every part is smaller than the compound, and the compound is bigger or greater than the parts. Al-kull a'zam min al-juz. So this is something you do not need to prove. If someone understands the meaning of part and the meaning of compound, automatically would affirm this proposition. So some people have said this proposition that reality is there, the world is real, this is one of those primary propositions. But the author says no, because we cannot affirm the relation between the reality and the world just by having these two concepts, having the subject and predicate. Because either you want to say that this is a sort of proposition in which these two concepts are identical, or you want to say that this is a sort of proposition in which the subject and predicate are ontologically, existentially identical. If you want to say that they are conceptually identical, it doesn't solve any problem. If you want to say that the world and being real are conceptually identical, it doesn't solve any problem. It doesn't mean that this is there. It doesn't prove anything outside. And if you want to say that these two ontologically are identical, this may help, but provided that you have proved in the first place the existence of the subject. For example, if I say this man is tall, it means that the concept of tall is identical with the concept of this man in the external world. That's good. But the problem is that this presupposes a sort of idea or knowledge about the existence of this man. If this man is really there, then I can conclude that this tallness is really for him. But if I have doubt about this man, so by the fact that this man is tall, I cannot prove that there is tallness outside. So we must already presuppose, we must already have been sure that the subject is there, so that we can conclude that there is an ontological relation between these two in the real world. So if I say the world is real, and I have doubt about the world, so this proposition does not make any help. So the author says that this also second argument is not promising, is not adequate. So he starts to develop his own argument. He says, first of all, we accept the existence of some realities through al-ilm al-huduri, through knowledge by presence. First of all, about ourselves. I know myself, I know my faculties, my ability, for example, to understand. I know my feelings, I know my perceptions. I know that I am, for example, seeing, I am dreaming, I am imagining something. I know that I am happy, I am hungry, I am sad, I am angry. I am full of hope, or I am hopeful, for example, I have lost my hope, disappointed, despaired. These are things that I understand directly, immediately. So I cannot have doubt about myself or about these things which relate to me. So this is the first stage. So at least we can believe in many things about ourselves in a direct and immediate way. Not through concepts, but through the presence of the very objects of knowledge. This is what we call it al-ilm al-huduri, knowledge by presence. Then we may make it into a propositional form and say there are some realities. I am not saying that everything is there. No, just I say there are some realities. The second stage is, because the first two can be considered as one stage, or if you want to consider them as two stages, the third is to say that there must be something outside. Why? Because sometimes I feel I am very happy, and sometimes I feel I am very angry. And when I look carefully inside myself, I see that there is no reason inside me to make me happy or, for example, angry, or to make me, for example, frightened. There must be something outside. If I were the cause, I would have had the knowledge about that, and I would have had this feeling always. The fact that sometimes I am frightened must be caused by something outside me. And that must be something material. Because if it was something immaterial, that would be constant, that would be persistent, that would be there forever. It's only the material world that changes. It's sometimes working, sometimes not working. Sometimes the cause is there, sometimes it's not there. So we can prove the existence of the material world altogether. But about the details, about, for example, very particular things, very specific things, whether, for example, that fish in the ocean exists or not, which may cause no interaction with me, we may not be able to prove philosophically, because in philosophy we are mostly concerned, or we could say necessarily concerned, with the general and universal things. And this is why philosophers have been always saying that demonstration only relate to the universal things, and you cannot base any demonstration on a particular thing, and you cannot draw any particular thing from a demonstration. الجزئی لا يكون كاسبا ولا مكتسبا. Inshallah, when you follow up your Islamic philosophy courses in future, you may have chance to study Arabic text. So please have this sentence in your mind just for future. الجزئی لا يكون كاسبا ولا مكتسبا. Anyway, we are not here intending to argue for the existence of all particular things in the world. That's billions of billions of billions of things, and we cannot undertake in philosophy to prove them. What is important is to prove that there is a reality, we are real, and there must be a material world. It's not just me and my imaginations. Then the rest can be known through experiences, through sciences which have been well supported by philosophy, and through common sense. We have no reason to have doubt about the things around us. When you talk to me, when I talk to you, when I hear, I taste, I touch, why should I have doubt? We should assume that everything is in the way that we understand, unless it is proved that we have made mistakes. This is what every ordinary human being does. So the author concludes this discussion with this argument about the reality of ourselves in the first place, and our own feelings, perceptions, faculties, and then about the reality of the material world. The author says that many of human beings understand the reality of the world automatically, and this is something which we do not need to argue for in the first place. We understand it, but we are able to support it or to present arguments for it, to support it by arguments or present some arguments for it. So it's a sort of, you could say, harmony between our innate or natural understanding and the philosophical understanding. So we understand automatically. Even a child who does not know anything about logic or philosophy as two disciplines, but he thinks logically and according to the philosophy. So many things that a child believes in can later be supported by philosophy. If there is a mistake, then that will not be something that would be universal among human beings, and it will be known by people who have been equipped by logical or philosophical skills. In other words, there are many things that we know without being in need of philosophical or logical discussions. It's just a matter of checking what we know. In many cases, they prove to be true. In some cases, they may prove to be mistaken. Then we deny them. So in 99%, our perceptions, our understandings, when especially they are universal among all human beings, are acceptable. It's very, very rare that we have mistakes or confusions shared by all human beings, some systematic, for example, mistake. Anyway, we leave this topic for your, inshallah, further studies in future. This is enough for the sake of our study of this book. وآخر دعوانا and alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.